And it's now time for the news. In our first story, the managing director of the Tema Oil Refinery, Asante Bekon, has resigned. The TOMD's name had come up in bribery allegations involving former government officials and members of parliament between the years 2015 and 16 in the award of an energy contract to a Turkish firm. Mr. Asante Bekon, however, denied bribing any of the said people, as mentioned in a statement to the presidency, and subsequently received. A formal one was issued, and it indicated from the Director of Communication, as stated, that the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has on Wednesday, 15th April 2020, received the resignation from the office of Mr. Asante Bekon as Managing Director of the Tema Oil Refinery, and this was after he submitted his resignation letter dated 15th April 2020 to the President. The statement continues that President Akufo-Addo has accepted Mr. Asante Bekon's resignation and duly notified the board of directors of the Tema Oil Refinery of this development. The President wished him well in his future endeavors, the statement added. It was signed by the Director of Communications, Eugene Ahin. And relatedly in Parliament, the Minority Chief Whip in the House, Moontaka Mubarak, is denying claims in the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission document cited that members of Parliament were bribed to facilitate a power deal for AXA Energy between the years 2015 and 2016. Mr. Mubarak, who was a member of the Energy Committee of Parliament in 2015, said that not a dime was paid to anybody as members of Parliament or of the committee. It tells Joy News the calls for a parliamentary probe is in the right direction, but says that would be difficult to investigate because of Mr. Asante Bekon's denial.
I know, definitely. No member of Parliament in this House will hear such a story and not get worried. What is relieving is that the gentleman himself, I've heard, is repeatedly said that I have not bribed any parliamentarian. You know the things that happen in our country. Sometimes things happen, like judges will tell you. Someone goes to see the clerk at his office, and then it's assumed that the judge has been seen. You being a reporter from Parliament, someone comes to see you, and he assumes that he has seen your editor. You know, those things happen. So for me, the big relief is that the gentleman is saying that, no, I have not bribed Parliament. So, but there's cause for worry. We need to begin to improve the way we do things, because especially, I mean, you see a number of times the way some of us keep raising concern, even when we're in government. You want to stand down all the orders and do it. Oh, we have deadline. No, we should begin insisting. If you want it early, come early, because this rushing, all of it, give credence to this kind of situation. Because if the thing comes and you go to look at the hands, a lot of the orders were stood down to do it under a kind of certificate of urgency. What was urgent? Why not take your time to do more scrutiny? Ask other people with relevant. I mean, I'm a member of Parliament. I cannot assume to be an expert in everything. So if something comes and I say, oh, it's about media reporting, oh, Opoku comes to mind, I should have time to be able to discuss with you, show it to you, look at it, make an advice to help me make an informed decision. But when you come and you are rushing everything through, I will not get the time to consult Opoku or consult any expert. That is a worry. So I think that we as a House need to really look at the way our processes. Admittedly, all of us try to abuse it. When I say all of us, I mean government after government. I've been in this House since President Kufuor, and you always see it. Last days. I mean, you've been reporting now. You see it. Last days, then they keep packing. Remember the last meeting, before the last but one, before the Christmas. You just be there 11 p.m., they lay something, in 20 minutes they say their account will report. And this is almost $1 billion. That's a Palogo thing, you remember? So these are worrying. So I believe that as a House, one, we need to quickly set up the scrutiny office. I mean, this is long overdue.
Neglected. That's how some doctors who are not working from COVID-19 treatment centers describe their situation, as some who recently came into contact with a coronavirus patient await their test result. A neurosurgeon, Dr. Hadi Abdullah, is one of them. He tells Joy News his son refused to speak to him when he denied him water in his bed to shield him from the possibilities of an infection. First, Dr. Abdullah makes a case for even distribution across health facilities and also to include health workers who are not stationed at COVID-19 treatment centers to prevent what he describes as silent infections.
Beginning to see patients who are coming to see us with, say, different ailments, but could have been COVID positive, you know, and unnecessarily expose us. Unfortunately, the difference between us and those working at the treatment centers is that they have all the cover, because nobody really identified us as a risk group. So we were not provided with the PPEs. I've had my samples taken, all my colleagues have had their samples taken. You know, and the danger is that some of us work in a highly specialized areas, that when we have just a single exposure, the whole unit may have to be closed down. I'm a neurosurgeon. Today I've had calls from several colleagues around the country who want to send patients who have bled into their brain, who need emergency surgery. My call is that, look, the PPE should be made available to every worker, every healthcare worker who is working at the clinics and the emergencies, because that is where the danger is. That is where the danger is. I tell you what, this same patient that some of us were exposed to, we saw the patient without the necessary PPE, okay? But the moment we called the public health team, they came in full PPE. And this is a patient we've been exposed to as close as 3 weeks. We just have to pray that none of us came positive. If we don't take the issue of the PPE very seriously for workers like us, we're going to have lots of healthcare workers getting exposed. They will be going home with the viruses and will be silently infecting the communities without knowing it. There are healthcare workers who are being picked from our various hospitals in public transport every day. Every day we have nurses, doctors sitting in the Ayalolo bus. We don't know which nurse is affected. But for the fact that they work in hospital and are not at the treatment centers, they are not getting enough protection. And that is where the danger is, because if any of them get infected, they are still going to the communities. That is the danger. Those people have been neglected. They have been really neglected. You know, I on my own decided that I was going to buy my own face masks and PPE. So I bought my own N95, which I encourage my junior colleagues to do the same.
Dr. Abdullah has an appeal, especially for Zongo communities, on the usage of their washing kettle, popularly called buta. He speaks in Hausa and translates just for great comprehension.
And coronavirus with COVID-19. Yanzu ciwo nan na gari ya hali tudu ma duka an samu mutane da ke da wannan ciwo. Yankuri ina roƙonku a bari zuwa masalaki ana sallan jama'a, a bari wannan in ka je wani buta kuma na nan da ka yi alwala da shi, ka yi kokari so ka wanke hannunka da ruwa sannan ka taba wannan buta. Sannan ina roƙon yawanmu da ke Nima da Mamobi da Ashama da Nungwa Zongo da Zongani mu duka ina roƙon ku, ciwon ga gaskiya ciwon nan yana nan cikin garin nan, and yara na mutuwa da ciwon ga manya na mutuwa da ciwon, kowa ya yi musu. And what I said is I'm appealing to my people from the various Zongos, including like my Muslim brothers and sisters, and that they should desist from congregational prayer, which has been banned. And the fact that I am aware that people are still even praying in congregation at home, which is not good. And there's a typical kettle that we use for ablution called buta, which several people can use at a time. I'm appealing, if you have one at home, just know that this virus is real, and as much as possible, we should wash our hands with soap before touching the kettle to start our prayers. Our ablution. And when you finish, you should do same. And if possible, we should avoid using it at all, and can use tap water, or you can buy sachet water and let somebody pour it for you whilst you perform the ablution.
Well, while the hospitals and their OPDs are busy, two of Accra's latest morgues are said to be filling up quickly as many families decide to defer the funerals of their deceased relatives until they are permitted to give them befitting burials. Now, this has largely been as a result of restrictions in movement of persons and limitations on large gatherings as part of government's efforts to contain the coronavirus pandemic. Morgue managers say they may soon be unable to take any more dead bodies and are urging their clients to take advantage of the provision made for private burials to find final resting places for their deceased. Joy News' Henry Kwesi visited the Kolebu Teaching Hospital and the Pantan morgues and has more in this interesting report.
At the Kolebu Teaching Hospital mortuary, we meet Ni Amawolo. His late brother passed away last month and his body is still in the morgue. He had come to the morgue to make sure his brother's body is kept well. Just like many families, Mr. Wolo refuses to carry out a private burial and would rather wait until the restrictions on movement and public gatherings is lifted. He plans to organize a big funeral to honor his late brother.
Oh, he died 12 February, and we've postponed this funeral because of the COVID-19. But actually, we are just planning because we can't bury this man or this guy with these 25 people, or what they call 4 people. They said restrictions have been given from government. 4 people should come and take their funeral. We can't do that. Especially we the Ghanaians, we have a lot of customary rights we do when somebody died.
But how long will Ni Ama wait before burying his late brother?
What is his position? It's a pastor. It's a big pastor in Ghana. Yeah. A big funeral for him. Because a lot of pastors will be coming, a lot of churches will be coming, and everybody have to be there. We have to testify, you know, something must be done. We can't bury him and then later. But when he's buried, I don't think anybody will come to the funeral because all of them are afraid of this COVID-19, the virus. So I don't think we can host any of these things. So we are just waiting.
The story is not different at the Pantan Hospital. Thomas Ewuku has been working at the morgue for 27 years. He tells me there's never been a time that the morgue has been so full to capacity.
Well, almost first now every week in your bodies, and I said,
we used to release bodies to relatives, but the situation is different at the moment. People have refused to claim their bodies due to restrictions.
Because we bank around almost coffee into almost body into body no head and also.
Thomas Ewuku says they now have no choice but to refuse storage of bodies.
The capacity of the morgue is 102, but it is currently full to capacity, and we have no option than to reject bodies because we do not have space.
The Obaba County, a much I am. I found a to this year. I don't have a problem.
Staff of the 2 morgues are now worried about their health due to the state of congestion.
We have a lot of work to do here because of the congestion. It is not safe here because of the chemicals we use.
Deputy Administrator at the Pantan Hospital, Collins Kessie, is appealing to families to bury them privately and organize funerals later.
We will be very glad if people come for their bodies, simply because apart from the revenue that we will get, it will also free space for bodies to be received over there. You know, people will continue to die, and if preservation facilities are choked, why will these bodies be kept? So it is our collective interest that private burials are undertaken so that the mortuary facility in the country will have adequate space to accept more.
But as it stands now, until the restrictions are lifted, bodies will pile up and generate a health crisis. Henry Kwesi Bedu's report for Joy News.
We take you to the Ashanti region, where security agencies have intensified enforcement of lockdown measures with emphasis on reducing human and vehicular traffic, especially in the regional capital, Ashanti. It comes in of Kumasi. Now, it comes in the wake of concerns about persistent flouting of government restriction directives. Prince Apia has been monitoring the situation on the streets of Kumasi.
So security in the Ashanti region has intensified. A number of barriers have been mounted and they are being manned by the various security agencies. Right behind me is one of the barriers being manned by the military, and what they are doing here on the Kumasi Accra Ejiso Tech Road is that any vehicle that comes through this part will be stopped and they ask you where you are going. If your reason is not tangible enough, they will not allow you to pass through this part. They ask you to go to wherever you are coming from. Again, some commercial vehicles that the drivers don't have licenses are also being checked as well. This is the Santasi roundabout. Police personnel have all day stopped many motorists from going to the central business district without tangible reasons. As stern as they have been, some of the drivers will spend time trying to justify why they should be allowed passage. The security personnel check for identification cards, especially of exempt workers, in addition to overspeeding and other road traffic infractions. Regional Deputy Police Commander ACP David Ajimai Ajem warns people who continue to be defiant will be made to face the law.
Things he said was that he wasn't happy with the way recalcitrant people are making this operation difficult for everybody. And so yes, we need to step it up and let people understand that we all have to stay at home. I mean, I think the watchword is that we need to stay at home. We need to ensure that people are tested and then treated as it were. And so, yes, I think it is right that we step it up. And I'll take this opportunity to advise everyone out there that will let the law take its course. And so please, let us all stay at home and let us all be safe.
Snap checkpoints have been increased across the city. All major routes leading to the Central Business District from KNUST Junction, Abuabo to Abreport Junction, soldiers and police await commuters. One will have to provide reasonable excuse for being on the streets or be forced to return or possibly be arrested. So my name is Prince Apia reporting from Kumasi.
And before we go, well, so we have to do the newspapers. We'll look at some online portals, but Momavi is ready. Momavi, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning, Roland Walker. How are you doing?
Chaladi.
Okay, I want to be very nice to you. It's the 18 of the government restrictions on movements, you know, and today is the 16th of April. Gradually, we're climbing, as in, we've halved April.
Yes, we have. And our case count, as at what we monitored over the last 12 hours, seem to have increased from the last count.
It has. We've got an update later this morning. There's a press conference to give us a brief. They've stated 3 areas. We'll share that with you in the course of our review this morning. Welcome to the review segment here on the AM Show. We've got a couple of newspapers in the studio. We have the Daily Graphic, the Times. I see the new Crusading Guide. One more paper, Roland.
Yeah, the Times do Crusading. There's one, Daybreak. I hadn't seen it before, so
okay.
I'm not sure that we're doing
all right. I'm not sure all the papers are still operating, but these are the ones we have. So let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper, front page of the paper. Disregard video on reopening of schools. That's according to the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Akwasi Owusu Amankwa. What are people saying? We'll get into details. We can't fight COVID-19 in fear. That's according to Dr. Letitia Apia, who is the Executive Director of the National Population Council. Zenith Bank supports COVID-19 fund with 1 million Ghana cedis by the banner headline. Blood banks run dry, according to Dr. Justina Ansa, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Blood Service. We did speak to her, was it like 2 weeks ago, Roland Walker?
Yes.
And they seem to have a very solid plan. There was a plan B, and they were trying to also allay the fears of people who want to donate, trying to give steps that they are checking everything, as in try to put some systems in place so that you're safe donating blood. But it looks like people didn't heed to that call. In the center spread of the paper, Accra Tema motorway cleaned up. Soldiers cleaning portions of the Accra Tema motorway. There's a picture of that, an insert actually in the center spread of the paper. And I want to take this opportunity to big ups our military men, the men we call the soldiers and officers of the Ghana Armed Forces. They protect the country, and if it means cleaning, if that constitutes protection of the country, so be it. I mean, they get down to do anything that they are asked to. Big ups to them. I was on the phone with one of our colleagues yesterday, Roland Walker. He stopped at the Valley View toll booths, and there was a military officer who had stopped him and said, the man, so I could hear what the man was saying, and then he said, one of my jobs is also to educate you on coronavirus. And he went through the stops: wash your hands, can you show me your sanitizer? And it was really impressive.
Wow.
And so, yeah, big ups to all the officers who are not just checking ID cards, but also taking the opportunity to do some education on the road. We have some great men in uniform doing on the road. Absolutely great work. Whether it is the sun is hot or not, they're there doing their work. So it's the military officers and the police officers as well doing a fantastic job on all of our behalf. Let's still stay in the center spread of the paper. As you can see, country on track against COVID-19. Dr. Okoboy, Deputy Health Minister designate yesterday as he appeared before the vetting committee. Knights and ladies of Marshall donate 100,000 Ghana cedis to COVID-19 fights. Also another story there, said Knight brother Charles Cobb, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Marshall, presenting the check to Most Reverend Charles Gabriel Palmer Buckle, the Archbishop of Cape Coast and Vice President of the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference, at a ceremony in Accra. Beautifully captured there in the center spread of the paper. Let's continue on the back page. AMA launches Wear Your Nose Mask campaign. Very interesting. Tamale Central Hospital lays off 143 casual workers. One of the stories that broke my heart yesterday. And they have to go home because the hospital is not generating enough to take care of them. Let's continue with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. COVID-19 combat, 84 fishermen quarantined in the central region. National Trust Fund, that's the COVID-19 National Trust Fund, receives 3.2 million Ghana cedis and $250,000 donations. Also, 143 casual workers laid off at the Tamale Hospital. That story in the graphic, also in the Ghanaian Times. Public warning: coronavirus is real. Follow prevention protocols to stop COVID-19 spread. And Tour MD resigns over bribery scandal. We spent a bit of time on that as well in the center spread. Well, essentially, stories on the front page in detail in the center spread. So let's do the back page. Mansamo, Roland, this one is, you have to help me, because I want to say P, but I'm not sure it's P. Is it P?
Mansamo P.
Mansamo P. What does it mean? It should have a meaning.
Mansamo P.
But it's a community development association in the Dadekotopon municipality of the Greater Accra region. They've handed a medical facility to the Ghana Health Service for temporary usage.
I know it means like a meeting place.
Okay, following the closure of the General Hospital. So this is a very good thing they've done. La Mansamokbi.
Is it P?
No, I didn't say
Mansamo.
Mansamo.
Cleaning, like cleaning.
Cleaning, okay.
Meeting, so meeting to clean, so more like a communal.
Oh, okay. Well, they will forgive me.
But they are
I come
NGO,
from
right?
Angloga. Yes, that's an NGO. Absolutely, it's a community development association. They say. Family Health Hospital present PPE to Greater Accra Regional Hospital as well. So a lot of people given because that's it. But see, that's the whole spirit of Easter as well. We thought we didn't celebrate Easter. We did. We're living with it. Roland?
Well, definitely. Let's go to the Crusading guide. It has on the front page, Tema Oil Refinery boss resigns over $4.5 million bribery allegations. His face is well splashed on the front page of the new Crusading guide. He's taking center stage. And, on the side, we have bloody clash at Kokrobite as Ni Ofe led land guards flout lockdown protocol to install chief. Down there, chief elders of Namwala petition government over Shanji's fraudulent agreement. Meanwhile, the Teshi Traditional Council, according to the story published by the new Crusading Guide, is donating to the vulnerable in our society. But on the back page of the new Crusading Guide, there's a story that says we can't afford total lockdown, a story attributed to the majority leader, Oseche Mensah Bonsu. Down there, Cocoa Board is confident of annual syndication despite COVID-19. And those are the stories we have. I have Daybreak. I'm not sure it's on your screen. So
I was going to say Daybreak Hits. You know the morning show on Hits FM is Daybreak Hits.
Okay, so Daybreak says GRA in turmoil. Union fights board over bonus. Union is also accusing the board chair, Professor Ade, and they demand respect from Professor Ade. I don't know. They didn't hear of him before he was appointed. I don't know what they were expecting. So relax. Let him do his work.
At this time, when we are fighting a pandemic and the GRA is not even raking in it with all the packages that's been given, the incentives that's been given, GRA is not in a good position right now. I don't think the thing they should be doing is what you're reading in the paper this morning. No,
you're saying that they are just fighting at the wrong time.
Exactly, at a very wrong time. It would take a while for us to even recover before you go to people asking them for their taxes.
Okay.
So, Charlie,
so the story also said that he's been fingered for usurping the powers of the Commissioner General of the GRA, whatever that means.
But listen, the Commissioner General of the GRA has always been very powerful, really powerful. I don't see them use their power. The chairman wants a little bit of it. I don't know. You don't use it anyway.
I think the Commissioner General uses his powers a lot because he has too many powers at his disposal. So I think he's surcharging and all that. So they do.
No, I mean, but I'm just kidding with that.
Yeah. Zoom Lion extends disinfection service to corporate Ghana. The story is also on the front page of the Daybreak newspaper. Lieutenant Dennis Tamsaki first signals regiment on suspension more soon. So it's coming. But those are the stories we have, Mama V.
All right, so let's go into a bit of the details and we'll do the Daily Graphic, page 11 to be specific. This story says the Ghana Education Service says no definite decision has been taken on the reopening of basic and second cycle schools in the country. The Director General of the GS, Professor Akwasi Owusu, told the Daily Graphic in Accra yesterday that with the current situation where nobody was certain whether COVID-19 would end, there was no way the GES could announce a date for the reopening of schools. He said once the coronavirus situation was addressed and it was safe to go to school, the service would come out with an official date as to when schools would reopen. So apparently there are people going around giving false information, fake news on reopening of schools, but the Director General of the Ghana Education Service has set the record straight on that. The other story that I also wanted to share a bit of was the Tamale Central Hospital laying off some 143 casual workers. That's on the back page of the Daily Graphic. It says the Tamale Central Hospital has temporarily laid off 143 casual workers of the hospital due to the negative impact of the coronavirus disease. The decision follows the inability of the hospital to mobilize enough revenue to pay the salary of workers as a result of a drop in the number of outpatients since the outbreak of COVID-19. Now, this is something that is sad. This shouldn't be happening. Well, it's not the hospital's fault, really, but I guess some intervention of a sort is needed. Because the last thing you want to do will be to lay people off, especially if you're a hospital. We don't know what is even coming at us. And you want all your numbers. If you look at the story in detail, it says, so for instance, there are cleaners, there are people. So these are support staff, essentially. Put them in that category. Support staff, very essential people as well. So if there's any way, I don't know, Roland, who we can make an appeal to keep the 143 workers, some kind of support to the Tamale Central Hospital, that will be really, really good. You don't want anybody going home, especially in a health facility at this time.
I think relatedly, because they are paid from IGF, or what they call, or what we decided
the
internally generated
funds.
fund, it becomes difficult to then appeal to the Ghana Health Service to incorporate them. And so with all the donations that are going round, perhaps an appeal to any of the benevolent or corporate bodies who are donating to the COVID fight will also, or can also take this up as one of their contributions.
Just pay the salaries of these 143.
Because they play critical roles.
Absolutely.
Just that their roles are complementary. But if you get to find, there's a speech that has been made by the boss of health, the chief health officer for the UK, just over the last 2 weeks, who said that it is now that the health system across the developed world is now seeing how useful wardens are, nurses are, even the work that just basic people do at mosques, etc. Because when you and I are asleep, we have frontline workers who have to do the work, the dirty work. And it's the work that nobody sees when everything is so rosy. Everybody tends to see the medical doctor, etc. But the one who cleans the ward, who is even given the less number of facilities or logistics to work with, who is less paid, who has to bear the brunt of the virus at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what it is. And I know it permeates even our society, the way we tend to rate or categorize.
Derek Sam, let's see if we can speak to the director of the hospital in the course of our program today. Let's see if we can make this appeal and then also activate the lines at some point. Let's try and see if we can get some help for the facility so they can keep the 143. I
agree to this.
Any other stories you want to review before we do much online?
There's only a story that has been published by the Crusading Guide, the new Crusading Guide, and it's about the majority leader saying we can't afford a total lockdown. And I know this argument has been...
Why don't we leave it to the scientists?
Great.
I mean, the technical people. Great. I don't like it when politicians try to make the call.
Because that was just the exact thing I wanted to say. Because we've had a lot of people tend to do a lot of talk. Even though in the story he's been quoted as saying that the president is receiving the best advice. I always say that when you're a top politician and some of these questions are posed to you, because you're not the expert, don't try to take center stage and get the limelight, so to speak. Just rebuff the questions.
Yeah, but we should also stop putting such questions to politicians.
I agree. Yeah. And I'll take a cue from what the Minister for Information said during his last press conference. And he said the media consistently needs to stop posing questions, inviting politicians to come and talk on expert issues, especially in this time when people need expert information.
Yeah.
And that's what we do here.
Just think about it critically. What has Parliament done apart from approving loans or funds from the finance minister when he appears before Parliament on COVID-19?
Yeah.
Technically nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of ask them. Yeah, I also wanted to, just before we do my Joe Online, maybe we should do my Joe Online and we can talk about the TOR MD, because people have been talking, following that statement from the Communications Directorate of the Presidency, saying the President had received his resignation. Somebody put a very important post on Facebook, which I read, that isn't the resignation supposed to go to the board but the president received it and notified the board, like, you know.
Well, the appointing authority is the president.
So if you resign, you give your resignation to the president.
Yes, because it's the letter of appointment is issued by the presidency.
Here's what I commented on that post, and I said, good corporate governance, it looks like it's only in our books. Let's do myjournline.com. Let me stop talking. Yes, roll it. So coronavirus recoveries in Ghana leap from 17 to 83. That's absolutely good news. Ghana's coronavirus case count rises by 5 to hit 641. One of the things we will be asking, especially with the US saying that they peaked already, we should also be asking that technical question. When do we say we've peaked? Pregnant Ghanaian nurse dies after contracting coronavirus in UK, but baby survives. Are you at risk of COVID-19? KNUST app can help with an answer. You can check it out. Proposed Wankuma in stable condition. Ghana's mission to the UK and Ireland is confirming that EC needs alternative to new electoral roll compilation. That's according to the CDD's Dr. Santi. And squatters at Old Fadama sleep in the open after city authorities demolish their makeshift homes. Well, the mayor of Accra says they have a plan for them. Ghana's morgues congested as families shun private burial. We brought you that in detail. Not all healthcare personnel deserve a Kufuor's 50% allowance, according to the man who was verted yesterday. Parliament is back on Friday to approve or not of his appointment. Roland?
Well, so we have to do the BBC. They always give us live Africa updates, and Kenyans attempt to storm out of quarantine center. They accuse the government of holding them in prison-like facilities with little basic services and more. And they seem to just flout the regulations. Africa, what is wrong with us? Well, no time for half measures in helping Africa's economy. Many African economies had been growing strongly before the coronavirus hit. Well, the mystery of Nigeria's fake gangster attacks is also there. And it says there's a radio drama used to stop the spread of coronavirus. But look, there's an update as to the world economy, because there's a talk currently about G20, group of developed countries, in that bracket, delaying poor nations' debt payments. You know, the IMF has been leading all this talk, and the World Bank and all, about, you know, debt forgiveness for countries like Ghana and the rest of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia especially, who fall within the bracket of third world developing countries. Debt forgiveness and all.
You saw the Kenyan story about those in quarantine, mandatory quarantine, who were attempting to storm out. I listened to it in detail and I was like, oh, Ghana, we should love our Ghana. When people traveled and came back, we put them in hotels, 3-star, 4-star, maybe 5-star hotels. But these people were kept like in the description is not a place you want to be. What? Sharing the same toilets, fetching water to flush the toilet and stuff like that. It is happening in Kenya. It didn't happen in Ghana. And I was so proud of myself.
And we're just getting news that 8 Burkinabés have been intercepted by immigration as well as municipal security officials of Sisala East after entering the country through unapproved route at Tumu. And well, so far we know that the interception was also undertaken by the Tumu police at Pieng. The interception was also as part of measures to make sure that the municipal security committee, if not council, are also on hand to make sure they do the monitoring as part of the overall measures being undertaken to ensure that there are no intrusions along Ghana's borders as part of the COVID-19 related measures. Now let's speak to Kairimu Nanywa, who is the Sisala East Municipal Chief Executive. Good morning to you, Mr. Nanyo. Good morning to you, Mr. Nanyo. we'll re-establish that line. But again, let me just run this by you. The picture, as you see behind me, will be put on the screen for you. 8 Burkinabés have been intercepted or arrested, as we have to appropriately use, after entering the country through unapproved routes along Ghana's Burkina Faso border at Tumu in the Sisala East municipality. This was undertaken by the police, who were doing routine monitoring rounds based also on some intelligence they had picked up at Pieng, and following that, this subsequently was reported to the municipal chief executive, who we will be speaking to. Karimu Nanyuo is also the head of the municipal security committee. He's back on the line. Mr. Karimu Nanyuo, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, great. Now, how did this come about, the arrest of these 8 Burkinabés?
Okay, good morning to you, and then good morning to the this morning. In fact, yesterday around 7:21 p.m., I got a call from one of my community chiefs, specifically Pain Kuro, with a complaint that some Burkinabés are passing through his community, purported to be going to Fancy, so when they were intercepted. So quickly, I advised them what to do. I said they should not get closer to them, but they should also prevent them not to go. And then quickly I arranged the police and then the immigration to go. They went and then brought them to Tumu police station.
So what does it mean, these intrusions? It means that we were not monitoring the borders?
Not precisely the answer. You know, Tumu shared borders with Burkina Faso. And then between Tumu and then Burkina Faso, there's no wall and there's no also a bridge or whatever that can prevent people from coming in. What I mean is that even some of us, we share even farmlands with some of them. So it's not very difficult to move from Tumu to Leo or Burkina Faso, or you move from Burkina Faso to Tumu. There's a lot of unapproved rules. I don't even want to say they are rules. Because if you are sharing a farmland with somebody, here you are not talking about rules again. So at any point in time, somebody from Leo can easily move to Tumu, and somebody from Tumu can also easily move to Burkina Faso. So this is the situation. It's not as if because the borders are not well monitored, because there's a lot of work ongoing. But technically, it's very difficult to prevent somebody from either Burkina Faso to come to Tumu or from Tumu to go to Burkina Faso. You can only manage the situation.
Okay. So it's just management of the situation that your security committee does. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, please.
But that then exposes the general lack of perhaps logistics or our ability to be able to monitor our border posts, especially in these difficult times of having the coronavirus pandemic.
Not precisely, my brother, because I've explained the situation to you. When we talk about border posts, you are talking about one particular entry point. Are you okay? But here I am talking about there's a lot of ways one can move from Burkina Faso to Ghana, from Tumu border, from Tumu side. And there's so many ways somebody can also move from Ghana to Burkina Faso, from Tumu, not to pass through the approved borders and all that. The issue, just as I indicated to you, not necessarily talking about logistics. Even you are even using the whole Ghana resources, because you will not be able, because as I speak to you, there are people in Ghana who share farmlands with those in Burkina Faso. Because you stand on your farm and you're able to see your counterpart Burkinabe in his farm. So this is the situation. So that kind of movement is not just a very difficult thing to do in our part of the country. And I think that should not really be blamed on resources.
Okay, so you also don't have enough resources?
Come again?
You also don't have enough resources?
Oh, you see, my brother, resources, you know, will never be enough at any point in time. Will never.
What's the meaning of that? Resources will never be. Do you have resources within these times of COVID-19 and the spread to be able to patrol our borders?
You see, my brother, you see, this COVID-19, nobody planned for it. if you go to all our budget, you will see COVID-19. As an assembly, we approved our budget last year, 2019 October. Are you okay? To be implemented for 2020. So at the time of the preparation, nobody captured COVID-19 as an issue or as something that will come in. So when it comes in, no matter what it is, resources will never be sufficient. That is what I'm trying to explain.
Mr. Nanyo?
Yes, please.
Does it mean that pre-COVID-19, we're just allowing members of other West African countries, whether it's Burkina Faso, etc., to just enter the borders anyhow and anytime they like?
The answer is absolutely no. The borders are closed. That is why those people were intercepted. They were found illegally because the borders currently are closed. So it's not just to allow people from West Africa to freely enter into our country, not at all.
Okay. Mr. Nanyo, how many illegal border points do we have that are bordering your municipality, for example?
Thank you for the question. Once you talk about illegal, or are you talking about legal or legal?
Illegal.
Illegal.
Yes.
I will not be able to tell you illegal, but because illegal things are not things that are known.
Okay. So let's get realistic. We know that we have the legal point, and we have over the period interacted with the Ghana Immigration Service. But they also say that there are illegal routes, either pathways or people going through many unapproved points. But I'm asking you, as the head of the Municipal Security Committee, which ones have you identified that you think that sometimes you critically pay attention to? That's all I'm asking.
Oh, well, we have a number of them. And then I would not be able to, because to come to my point, we have routes from the area called Katimia to Dong. It's an illegal route that people can come to, Ghana. If you go to Kasane area, Kasampuri, they are all communities that link Ghana to Burkina Faso, and there are routes. Some are farm routes, some are also illegally created routes. You see, for as far as I'm concerned, I will not be able to tell you all these routes, because especially dry season, a route can be created in a day, just because of this movement. But all the identified ones I was mentioning, like Katimia, Don Road, Tumuka, Sanaka, Sampuri, Tambiele, all these are noted routes that we know people can come in. And then we are actually monitoring those routes. And when it happened that way, suddenly people are forced to create other ones, because it's not very difficult to create a road during this season.
Well, so at this point in time, it means that what will happen to these Burkinabés?
We are yet to decide what will happen to them.
Okay. So when the Security Committee, in conjunction with the police, etc., intercepts or arrests illegal nationals of other West African countries, we have no protocols as to what we take them through?
Oh, I think that I already told you, we will have to pass them through the protocol. And, that is where we also have to seek other opinion as to what to be exactly to do.
Okay. As
far as this particular issue is concerned. But the issue is even far beyond just a security issue only. Because, this particular thing, Ghana Health Service is also part of it. But if you look at the Omusa membership, Ghana Health Service is not part of it. Because you cannot just take them like that. First of all, you need to screen them and then also get some information from them. So I think all those protocols are duly observed.
Okay. All right. So the screening is not medical screening for COVID?
Although I don't think we have the authority to do that at the own municipality. But I will not be able to explain the details of that. But Ghana Health Service is also in the picture. And then at their level, I know they are doing what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Well, we have to let you go. Thank you very much. At the end of the day, we also do know that actions will be taken. But just a last question. At what point in time do we have to then say that we need to be rest assured that when people are arrested, they are medically safe to be housed, or maybe they'll have to go through quarantine?
I think there is a very good question, and it's more or less something that Ghana Health Service will have to decide, because they have their protocol, the low, medium, and high risk. Are you okay? So if they pass it through their preliminary investigations and then they are at high risk and all that, I think we are compelled to quarantine them and all that.
Well,
so they will come out with that advice.
Well, thank you very much. The Municipal Chief Executive for Sisala East, that is Karimu Nanyo. And it is because 8 Burkinabes have been arrested, and there was an interception by the Tumu police who did that in their operational zone. And it was because they had gotten some intel about these intrusions by these illegal immigrants or Burkinabes who had, used unauthorized routes or one of those unauthorized routes to make entry into Ghana. The municipal chief executive says all assurances are that they are monitoring the routes as much as they can, and we all do know, based on what the regulations are. He is the chair for the Municipal Security Committee. But look, it's a continuous content we always bring you, and we told you that the resignation of the TOR MD, that's the Tema Refinery managing director, has been accepted by the president. And this was confirmed in a statement issued by the director of communications at the presidency, Eugene Ahin, who said the president had taken receipt of that resignation letter. Subsequently, would duly inform the board and wished the former managing director well, and the man in the picture is Mr. Asante Beko. But it is because he's at a center of a bribery allegation. The Securities and Exchange Commission of the United States of America, following an investigation into an energy contract that was given to a Turkish company right here in Ghana between the years of 2015 and 2016, had concluded that Mr. Asante Beko was the focal point for transferring illegally money into Ghana for alleged bribery of members of parliament and then other government officials who were very key to the approval of that energy contract. Of course, we know what the Minority Chief Whip had said about investigation that needed to be done, whether monies had been received, because at the time he was a member of the Security Committee. But look, we'll bring you all the updates, because just on Wednesday we brought to you an update from Anti-Corruption Campaign Adam Senanu, who indeed had called for consistent action to be taken by the presidency on the subject, especially involving the personality of Mr. Asante Beko. Now, we bring him back on stream. Good morning to you, Mr. Adam Senanu. Now, if you look at how things have unfolded over the last 12 hours, what will be your own conclusions based on your observations?
It's the right decision, a step in the right direction, but it should not preclude a full-blown investigation as to what has transpired, because the reputational damage has been really bad. So we need to establish the facts. We need to engage the U.S. government, get the evidence that's available to them, and do our own investigation and draw a conclusion. So I'm expecting the presidency to go a step further.
And what step would you want the presidency to?
Well, it should be assigned. This would comfortably fall into the ambit of the special prosecutor. I think that for consistency's sake, that would be a good place to send it to. And I think that the sooner it is done, the better. It's good that Mr. Asante Beko has resigned, but one needs to have clarity as to what transpired, who was involved. Do we still have some of them in government who benefited? Because, you know, at the end of the day, whatever they paid out is money that the good people of Ghana are paying back through whatever is being paid to this Turkish company for the provision of energy. So it's not come cheap.
Mr. Senano, this is Mama V. I just wanted to remind you that these still remain allegations. You're almost sounding like this is something, the allegations coming out is actually something that is factual. This is coming out of a judgment, but it still remain allegation.
Well, I don't know which part of my response to you makes you think that I am saying there's anything other than allegation.
Okay.
I am saying that the investigation, a full-blown one, must happen. We must establish if any of those are alleged to have received sums of money are in government. And you can be sure that once such monies were paid out, the good people of Ghana are paying back. So
I was just thinking, shouldn't we rather wait for the U.S. to finish its investigations, the Securities Exchange to finish its investigations? Then we will know that something in actual fact has happened before we investigate in Ghana.
Documentation already provided says that these monies were made available, were channeled for these purposes. The documentation and evidence available has stated that this was the purpose. They had a budget of up to about $4.5 million. They are certain that at least 2.5 million of that, and the purpose of it was to bribe officials to make it easier for this Turkish company to get this contract. So the evidence already provided on which basis that Mr. Santiago was listening before a court in the U.S. was this. So those ones, the U.S. has said that that's their position.
But does it matter that the man at the center has denied it?
Well, it does. That's why we need to do our own investigation. But it tells you that that money did enter our economy. They've been able to drill down to a certain amount. What the man has said is that he did not make any payment. It does not take away the fact that certain monies were paid. He's trying to say, I was not involved in these payments. But the U.S. has made a finding that these monies got into the Ghanaian system and was used to pay certain groups of people. So we need to do a full-blown investigation and have clarity as to who was involved. And I'm just saying that whatever the case is, you are sure that when companies like this engage and they dole out money, they recoup that money through whatever services that they are to provide.
All right, Mr. Senano, we thank you for your time. Let's also bring into the conversation Mr. Martin Pebble, who is a lawyer. Mr. Pebble, a lot of people have said, and then you may have heard Mr. Senano there also make the points, following the resignation of the TOR MD, people have said it shouldn't end there. The president, this matter should be referred to the special prosecutor or to Shraj. What do you make of that?
Well, referring the matter to the special prosecutor shouldn't be a problem. But I have a different take on the approach. You see, as things stand now, we don't have any evidence against him. It's the Americans who have. So even if you say referred, it shouldn't be that if the matter goes to a special prosecutor, immediately he's starting investigation. No. The Americans are ahead of us. They themselves, and I'd like to put the question to Mr. Senano. As of now, they are allegations, not yet proven in a court of law. So it appears to me that our first step would be to contact the Securities and Exchange to find out, under the Mutual Legal Assistance Act of the law, whether they are willing to give us the evidence they have as now, or they are rather going to use it first before they will give us. So that is what will really inform what decision we are taking as to whether we are investigating now or we will abide the completion of the court action in America. You see, because we have to be very careful. As for saying, comment investigations, that's not difficult. With the stroke of a pen, the president can decide to comment. But the question is, when are you going to finish? What outcomes are you taking up? Right now, the evidence is somewhere. So why don't we first of all go find out from that person, as I stated earlier, whether he will give us now or we would rather ask us to wait for him to finish using it. Because don't forget, they spend their taxpayers' money in conducting all these investigations and everything. And even when it comes to the question is that do they want their witnesses to come here and ask when they have not finished? These are very technical matters. So you can take it from that answer first, find out to what extent we can get assistance, and then that will inform us as to what we have to say.
Mr. Pebo, I've heard a lot of people make reference to the Airbus matter. As a legal practitioner, technically, what would be the difference between this latest issue and the Airbus, and referencing it to the special prosecutor?
Yes, you made it very sorry, Mama, you made it clear that the Airbus matter, that was the matter.
Mr. Pebo, I seem to be losing you. If you could just reposition yourself.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Pebo.
Is it better?
It is.
So I mentioned that you had indicated that in the Airbus matter, you see that we're dealing with the judgments of the court. The UK authorities were largely done. Of course, they are investigating other persons, but at least for our purposes, in terms of government officer 1 and all these ones, those we can get help. They are done to a large extent. But this one, the Americans have not yet finished the court case. So we would need to find out what they are willing to give us at this stage. And that is what is inform us.
When you say what they are willing to give us, what will that constitute?
Sorry, please say that again.
I wanted you to give us a bit of clarity on what they are willing to give us. You said at this time we should be looking at collaborating and see what they're willing to give us before we can open investigation.
Yes, so that's why I said that the Americans have the evidence. They are the ones who did follow the money. They trace the money and got to where they are. And they think that there is evidence of a crime. So in terms of what witnesses, we don't know. In terms of the bank account, remember they said the money was wired to the New York bank account of Mr. Berko, then from there transferred to Ghana. All those things. We don't have those details. So because they are ahead of us, we must necessarily find out from them. You shouldn't reinvent the wheel, because don't forget that the problem we are facing with the Special Prosecutor's Office is that you know that it's a new office, so it's been taking a while for them to get off the block. So I'm very concerned that we shouldn't just go down the case there and then the tally will increase, the count. You say, yes, this is case number XYZ. We haven't seen any results yet. Then you see that then there's pressure mounted on the office. We haven't seen the family do anything and all that. No. So let's be very tactical. Before we say the case is being investigated, we must first be sure what resources we are getting. When I say resources, what kind of evidence we are getting from the Americans to be able to prosecute here, or if we are also going to see a civil case, we will do. So we must first find that out. Otherwise, just send down the case there. If it's announced to the public that he's investigating, then, as I mentioned earlier, we will start putting pressure and all that. Don't forget that a number of cases have been taken to that office. We are yet to see results. Remember the Bikina, Alfred of the boss matter. That's case number 1. Case number 1 has not come out. It's been almost a year and a half now or so. Case number 1, we've not seen prosecution, we've not seen the results. There's case number 2, and so many others. We haven't had the results. So let's be very tactful as the people. I know probably the moment we hear something, so, oh yes, send it for investigation. Yes, we can do. But to what end? So let's be tactful this time.
All right.
Let's make inquiries, and then let it come out that, okay, we can now or wait, so that we know clearly where the case lies, whether there is an ongoing investigation, or we are waiting for the Americans to finish before we start.
Okay.
Or whichever way.
All right, Mr. Martin Pebble, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your insights in this matter. We will see how this actually goes forward. For now, the presidency has acknowledged receipts of that resignation and has wished the former MD now well in his future endeavors. We see how this goes. Move on to other matters. There was news that MTN and Vodafone have received free spectrum for 3 months because of the pandemic, because of the pressure on these two service providers. And we want to understand what that means. Do we have freebies coming our way as citizens as well? So we decided to touch base with the CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Mr. Kenashigbe, is joining us for a conversation on the back of this. Mr. Kenashigbe, good morning to you. It's good to see you this morning. We're just wondering, the free spectrum, what does it mean and how would that translate to the user? Do we get something for free?
Well, thank you very much. Already the users are getting a lot for free. So I'm pretty sure you know that we have over 100 Facebook sites that you can access for free. And there are other things that are happening. What this free spectrum would do, it would increase the capacity of the operators be given to. You need to realize within the era, because of the limitation, load grows, what ordinarily the network would have to put more cells side to be able to serve all of them. But that takes a lot of time, that takes a lot of doing. So what this would do is that it would give them more capacity once they deploy, and then it will result in better tools for customers. So basically, this has been done to ensure that the stability of the network will also improve the quality of service. The jams that Mr. spoke about that has from the road onto online, it would be able to better handle that.
But generally, we also do know that the providers have excessive pressure on them at this time, and it's all because of the layout of infrastructure. And the question is, are there fears within the service providers because of the type of structure or infrastructure they have, and the pressure that could come on, and ultimately could have some implications for either expansion or the ability to be able to absorb this type of pressure from users?
Well, generally, if you look at what has happened around the globe, you had load grow faster than had been anticipated because nobody saw COVID-19 coming in where we are today. So there's been provision done by all operators to be able to handle the load. You find out that most of those have been eating, because what has happened is that not only that the load has, but the data of the load has grown. You've had people around this time, all of us will be using, if we're in our office, what has happened is that load has been spread onto mobile because people are working from home. They might not, you have a lot more mobile internet than you have a fixed line. So even in those particular areas, you had those loads. You've also had load moving in particular time from where they ordinarily were to where they are. So it would mean that the engineers now need to load patterns and be able to move resources around. And this is what the spectrum would be able to do. The market like South Africa, they have given spectrum 700, they've given 800, they've given 2.3, they've given 2300, they've given 2600, and we've given 3200. But in Ghana, we've given 2 5x10s, 800 band, also in the 2000 band. It's good. It would help to be able to ensure that the networks are resilient, would help be able to take the extra load that is happening. But definitely, we don't know how long this will last, and we don't know how, how long. So the operators have to make sure that they make just use of this resource to ensure that, most importantly, the network will be available and will be stable. The congestions that would be minimized.
And I know that over the last, is it 1 month or 3 weeks, you've been giving all the precautions about how we need to use data wisely, etc. And then this was culminated with the announcement that there's been the extension of the spectrum for 3 months. When we're talking about excessive pressure by users on infrastructure of these providers, what really do we mean? What quantums are we talking about? Which numbers are we talking about? And which of the geographical sections of the penetration of our country are we talking about?
Well, the interesting thing is, we have the triangle. So we basically have your Accra area, you have your second, and then you also have Kumasi. The interesting thing is that all district capitals are covered. So in the past, your CBDs were the places where you were seeing a lot of, and then people will go back to home. In the past 2 hours, peak was in the evening. Now the peak is still in the evening. We're beginning to see some peaks also in the morning between 9 and 11. You also see some peaks. The interesting thing is that some residential areas are also seeing a bit of move into those directions, especially in October. So that's also one of the things that is happening. And so we are hoping that these resources that have been given, we deploy a lot more in the high density load areas. It might not necessarily result in additional expansion of those areas that they already are. It would, in the short term, will become just 3 months. It will be concentrated in areas where already the engineers are seeing a lot of peaks and a lot of traffic in those areas to ensure that we can improve the quality of service.
Well, we have to let you go, though, because you have an important meeting. But generally, the customers had been clamoring for some reduced rates, etc. If you look at what the structure of taxation and the operational costs and related issues are before and even within these difficult times, what could be made available to consumers by way of affordability and all?
So what has happened generally is that you are finding out that operators are increasing the caps on particular bundles. The bonuses they are adding a lot more bonuses to what it is that they're giving. Some of them who have fixed line expiry, they are not disconnecting. Some bundles that were expiring are now not expiring. So a lot of that is being given. But there's also a lot of free being given. As at last a week ago, we were peaking over 3 terabytes of data on the website. Over 240,000 customers were going on a daily basis. So there's already freebies being given. If you take government workers working with Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Communication, to be able to enable them also work for free. All of this is going on. So apart from the bonus that commercials that the operators are doing, which basically because of the issues of pollution as industry, they speak about that individually. Generally, as an industry, that the industry is giving. Bear in mind that beyond the issues of the TSM, if you go to the mobile financial services, these 100 that transfer, pretty sure that by the time we're finished with the 3 months, the cost to the operators of mobile money will be in excess of 80 million Ghana fees that have been given. That already is given to customers. Because realize the fact that without the customers, there's no business. And we don't know how long this will go. Already, your people who would have bought the money to be able to make voice calls, they are all gone because most of these are people who earn wage, the daily wages that. So the difficulties that even our society who generally are the agents who are beginning to suffer because that generally the cut that is being spent is even. So we need to be careful in the bit of making internet afford to compromise stability and availability of the network. That is why we're targeting the free people to critical areas like education, like access to services, like access to work, so that you don't then end up providing data that all people use it for what Netflix and what you. Rather, you want to target it to place that is critical for work.
Okay, my last question. If you answer it well, then I will ask the next one. That's a tricky one. Okay, so for my network, I have a 10 gig package, and then I decided to find out what my bandwidth or my data package was. So I went to look at it, and then they said they gave me the 10 plus 7 gig for nights in 2 smooch monthly package. That's for my network, and I use Vodafone. So I'm wondering, this 7 gig I have to use in the night. I sleep in the night. What am I supposed to use that for? If you know that you want to give me freebies or you want to make it easier for me to be able to enjoy your service, this 7 gig for night, I don't understand as a customer in these times.
Well, the good thing is that you have the freedom to choose whatever packages you have. The reason why you find out that bonuses are moved to the time, it's all managing the load.
Okay.
Because if you were giving the bonuses at the time, at the peak, you might not even be able to, because everybody would aggregate at that particular time. So what they're doing is that the networks are provisioned 24 hours. So that might be a good time for you to do your video call. That might be a good time for you to be able to, do some of the heavy at that particular time. So what the networks do is that they play with time. They play with places that they move the load so that can balance the load. Because if all of us were going to come near, all of us decided that just at 8 a.m., what would happen? That we'll have that choke block between Moto and about. But if I decide to go at midnight, you decide to go during the day, so we can spread the load.
Okay, so that's the trick. They are doing it like the way ECG does their thing, load, managing load.
Yes, it really, I wouldn't really even call it a trick. It is the way to manage the network. So you find out that even there were packages that are sold purely at night. So you find out that people but you can use it between particular times. And the whole reasoning behind that say that at a particular point in time, your network is available, but there's no load. And then also you are still paying the electricity bill, you are running all your bills. Then you also have the situation where people are using it at one particular point. So can you give them an incentive to move to that particular time of day? Bear in mind also that we live in a global world. When we are asleep at night, somebody might be your loved one somewhere might be awake. So you might use that bonus to do some audio, and I recommend that we do audio calls on, what Facebook calls audio. Don't do too much. Unless we're doing TV like this, the benefit of viewers. And then let's make sure that we are prudent in using But the reason why that is just to move the load, because it's a shame that we have owners at one particular, and then the next appear, and then we don't allow people to use it. But currently, people will not move there. To be able to get them to move there, you need to give them consent to be able to go there.
Well, so all this is good, right? We are in for some great times as consumers.
Well, I would say that all of us should bear in mind that we are in really difficult times. We are in very unprecedented times. Because another thing that we are faced with is the challenges in global logistics. So right now, when you really need to be able to do maintenance, to be able to do some of these expansions, you might not have equipment. But because of the fact that global logistics are not doing as they ought to do, even getting a flight to bring the equipment, it would be very difficult. So we need not only telecommunication, all resources that we have, even electricity, even water, even for you, the media houses. Currently, if you touch wood, any of your equipment is damaged, to be able to replace that with difficult. So we need to be able to do things prudently. So I'm pretty sure that even for the UPO, TV stations and all of that, we need to start resting a lot of equipment. If they're doing a 5-camera work, you start doing 3-camera work so that 2 of them will be left and then we use that. It's the same thing that we need to do with all resources. Resources are not, they come. We also have scarcity. And within a crisis, where you have various countries deciding that they will not export as much, we need to conserve whatever it is that we have. Let's use the resources that gives us the best. So, but we would, in terms of the network, working with the regulator, NPA, and then also the communication, there are a lot of strategies that we put in to be able to ensure, data and also the stable and the experience that customers is good. It won't be difficult, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to ride the storm.
Thank you very much for spending your time with us, and we're grateful. This education is good for all of us who now are very much fixated. We're almost having a techie if our data is consumed or exhausted, and we have to renew the packages. But because we are now using more data because we're staying more at home within the period of the lockdown in the areas that have been affected. We're talking Accra, Tema, and Greater Kumasi. And enjoy your meetings there. Now, Ken Ashigbi is a CEO for the Ghana Telecommunication Chamber, or the Ghana Chamber for Telecommunications. That's more appropriate. But in the meantime, I have to transition and talk about all the related things. Because while you're at home, you're in the lockdown areas of Accra, Kumasi, the other extended areas of Kaswa, way into the central region, and in Kumasi and the adjoining areas that so far within the political lexicon has been referred to for spatial and geographical purposes as Greater Kumasi. You know that you are now in a state of sometimes dilemma, some psychological distress because of the related issues. But aside that, we also do know that when you hear the news about somebody contracting coronavirus and ultimately turning out positive and then negative after recovery, they also leave in the wake a lot of stigma, a lot of some psychological issues within communities and the society. But how do we prepare our minds knowing that it is not a bad thing having contracted a disease but also turning out negative? And that is why we decided to have a clinical psychologist, but more so a member of government's COVID-19 response team. Dr. Amachrewa Edwin is going to join us. And I tell you, we want to just do a recap of a statement during the last press briefing. Do know that it's about how you handle such a pandemic as a society, as personalities, as individuals in the society.
Having reliable information is one. We know that regularly the Ministry of Information, together with the Ghana Health Service, the Director General is here, updates treat us with what is happening. So you have to have the know-how, and then we show empathy to people who are being affected. We have a saying that says that if you see your neighbor's beard on fire, you collect water, you fetch water and put it against yours. Not because yours will catch fire too, but in case yours catches fire, you have water to douse the fire. We have community spread. We never know who is going to get it. So let's be empathetic to those who have it, so that when you have it, the same way you treat others, you will get the support. But if you stigmatize others, next time it might be you. We also need to understand the disease, and that's why I'm so happy about the education that is being done in various languages. And then we should adopt practical measures that work. But in terms of the bigger picture for all of us, I'm going to talk about 3 things that we can do. Words matter, so we'll first look at the do's and don'ts of stigma. Then do your part. We are all involved, so we all have to do our part. And I'll give a few communication tips to the media. So what are the do's and don'ts? Let's look at some of them. Talk about people who have COVID-19. Don't talk about COVID-19 case. It's not the same. The person is a person first. So a patient or a person with COVID-19 or being treated for COVID-19 or recovering from COVID-19. We don't want you to say COVID-19 case, COVID-19 suspect, COVID-19 probable. That is stigma generating. Do talk about people who are presumptive to have the disease rather than suspect. Because in the police officer just spoke. Once we use the word suspects, it's like you've done something wrong, and that is what is in people's minds. So what you want to say is that this is a person or a patient who is thought to have COVID-19 or may have it. It's also important that you talk about the fact that, oh, this person traveled and contracted the disease rather than he traveled and brought the disease to Ghana. One of the things the media will do, they go so much always looking for K0, the index case, and tracing them. Why is that so important? It is here. We need to look at how we can manage it. It's very important that you don't talk about people infecting others. Super spreaders. It's a word that is bundled often. But once you identify a person or a group of people as super spreaders, you are stigmatizing the whole community, not just the person.
Well, so you watched that or heard that. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll speak to her. Dr. Edwin will be on stream.
Now, public health emergencies such as what we have at hand, COVID-19, are stressful times for people and communities. Fear and anxiety about a disease can lead to people stigmatizing others. So how do we fight the virus and not the people? Dr. Akwasi Edwin is a physician, clinical psychologist, and senior lecturer and head of Department of Psychological Medicine and Mental Health, School of Medicine, University of Health and Allied Science in Ghana. Good morning to you, ma'am. I must say that it was very refreshing listening to you last Tuesday.
Thank you, but I must correct the designation.
Okay.
I'm on a leave of absence from you. So I'm a physician, clinical psychologist, and bioethicist, currently working at UGMC. So I am not head of department,
okay,
and I am not with you at the moment. I need to put that on record, please.
Okay,
this
great.
is important.
All right, I like
that. You didn't ask me for where.
No.
Yeah, so please correct that. I know why I'm emphasizing that. Please.
Absolutely,
it's important,
and that's on record. So great. But let's get into the conversation of stigma. What forms can stigma take?
So stigma, two main types. We have the social stigma where others are stigmatizing you, and then we have the self-stigma where an individual internalizes what societal what members of the society or community are stigmatizing. So let's say in this era of COVID-19 pandemic, we know that there is stigma affecting those who have the disease, those who are even thought that they could have the disease, or those who are being investigated for disease, then their families, and then health workers. Any of these groups can internalize the stigma in the society, and then it becomes self-stigmatizing. The importance of that is that when you self-stigmatize, you tend to see things through a clouded lens. Typically, we have that with people who have mental health challenges. So someone will say, oh, we do about that one, papa, that kind of thing. And then you begin to question your own sanity when you are doing things. Anytime you think that you are having a relapse of a condition, you are fighting with what will people say, will it affect my job, will it affect my relationship? It's already in the society, but you have internalized it and you live your life with that. And it's important in this era that the stigma out there is one thing, but for those who are affected by COVID-19, whether as patients, whether as family members, whether as health workers, need to look out for that. So those are the two main types of stigma, the social stigma and the self-stigma or perceived stigma.
Okay. I want us to also talk about the fact that there are people calling for persons who have recovered from COVID-19 to assist in educating the public against stigma. What's your take on that?
Great. In fact, this morning I was talking to someone I know who's been through that, and I said, you have a powerful voice. I can talk a lot about stigma, but you have a lived experience, especially when you work in the health sector or you are frontline. So these are people we need. We have something that we call making heroes' voices heard. They have been through something most of us haven't been through and probably won't be through. So when they talk about the disease, when they talk about the fact that, yes, you can have this disease, yes, it can be challenging, but yes, you can overcome it, yes, you can come out on the other side, it's a powerful testimony. And I, for one, am championing this. So as many people that as I'm providing psychosocial support to, or I know, I talk to them that please, we need people like you to share your story, to tell your narratives, and to emphasize the importance of staying at home. My particular target is the health workers who have been affected by it because they were doing their regular kind of job. For those of us who work in a treatment facility, when I'm going to the facility, I know that where I'm going, we are treating people with COVID-19. And so I will wear the appropriate PPE, whether it's just a surgical mask or N95 or I don the full gear, depending on what I'm doing. But the clinician who is running his OPD, the surgeon who is operating on a patient, the person who's seeing patients on the ward, some of them have been affected, doctors and nurses who have been affected by the disease. They have experienced stigma. Unfortunately, sometimes even within the health profession. And that's very sad. Some of them have literally been thrown out of their homes and their communities. But if we can tell these people to share their narrative, that would be a powerful thing. So if that is something you are doing, I'm on board. It's a very powerful group we have. We need to harness that. We need to honor them. We need to celebrate them. And they can be real advocates and activists for this fight.
But from your conversations with them, are they willing to get on camera and share?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Yes.
All right.
The few I have spoken to, I don't know whether it is me, and I kept telling them, don't feel bullied because I am asking. It is your story.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, no, we are willing. We have a story to tell. So the few I have spoken to are willing to do it. It's the form
so
that
maybe
we have
after this conversation, we can arrange and get some of them to share their stories with us. We're open to doing that. That would be really, really good. So we can.
Okay,
but I just wanted to also ask you on the back of that, I mean, what's the difference? We've seen some very popular people outside of Ghana openly say they have it. Like, why can't we do the same?
Exactly. So generally, let's look at our population. What's the percentage of our population who are educated, who can read whatever they see in the media or on social media and interrogate and not buy into it. That's one thing. And then we also have a low level of health literacy. So you even have educated people who come to hospital, they've been diagnosed with maybe hypertension, diabetes, or some other condition. You ask them their medication and they don't know their names. Sometimes it's from us, the health workers. We don't take time to educate them. Sometimes it is also from them. It's both. So that is health, it's a problem. So this is a disease that is unknown, that is evolving. We tend to either spiritualize or attribute supernatural things to everything. So misinformation thrives. We have an infodemic that is also undermining even the real information. And sometimes when you even try to educate people, I'm on some social WhatsApp group and other networks, that there are certain things when I see, I can't keep quiet. But then you come at it and it's like, oh, you don't know. You're only limited to your medicine and you think everything is out, is what is happening. So people are not even willing to engage in that. In such an environment, misinformation will thrive. So if I come and tell you that it's because of A, B, C, and D, then with my understanding of why we have the COVID-19, I will see you as an adult. I'll see you as you have brought the disease and we need to get rid of you. Either we get you out of the community or even the home, or even those who are working in it tend to stigmatize. So it is our culture. This is not the first time we are having that. The same thing happened with HIV. Before HIV, mental health has always been an area where it's been stigmatized. You work in mental health and people saying that, oh, you know, and so it boxes you and that challenges that. So we have an environment that makes stigma thrive. But we also need to look at the fact that this thing we are fighting is not a Ghanaian thing. It affects all of us. And so if we don't come on board and decide to fight it together, you might think that you are safe. You might think that you have not traveled. You might think that it will never happen to you. But you never know, because now we have community spread. And that is why we all need to come on board and make sure that we fight this. Because when we don't and we stigmatize people, they will hide their illness. They will hide their symptoms. They will not even come to the hospital. If they are coughing, either they will try and hold on to the cough when they are in public, or they will sneeze quietly, but people will go underground. And when they go underground, they will not keep to social distancing, and that will spread. And it's because of stigma. But if we embrace this fight together, that the fact that you have it is not your fault. It doesn't make you an outsider, that you are not responsible for bringing the disease, but you traveled, or you were doing your regular work, or you were getting on with your life, or as we say in Ghana, you were sitting or somewhere and you got the disease. You are able to talk about it and share your story. People are willing to talk, but they also weigh the option. Will I get more stigmatization when I come out? These are some of the things we are looking at now.
All right. Doc, finally, I want us to talk about mental and physical health. Usually we ask that in relation to a person with the disease. But how about the rest of us? People who are staying at home. We're asking people to stay at home unless you're an essential worker. I come to work every day and I'm thinking about my family. Would I go back home with the disease? God forbid. But if it happens, it means that I'm spreading it along as well. There is a psychological, mental issue that we all have to look at. Point us to the right direction. How do we get over all these things that we're thinking about?
That is true. And as a health worker, I can identify with that because I'm cognizant of the fact that I may get the disease by virtue of my work or even aside that. So how do we deal with it? A few things. The right information is important. What is the disease pattern? Yes, it's a disease that is still evolving, but we know that majority of people who get it will get mild disease or even asymptomatic, up to 80%. So it means that 80 out of 100 people who get it will have the mild form of disease. Some of them may never even have symptoms. They won't even know. Then we have up to about 15% who may have moderate disease, and about 5% will have severe disease and usually with comorbidity. So just having that means that the odds are in your favor, all things being equal, that if you get it, you will get the mild disease. Even if you fall into the group that gets the moderate or severe, the outcomes are still much, much better than Ebola and many other diseases that are fighting us. So looking at the worst case scenario and realizing that, okay, even if the worst happens, it's not the end of the road, it's not the end of it for me, should give you some confidence. Then you also know that you cannot walk in fear, you cannot live in fear. Several people have talked about the fact that do not be afraid or fear not. You have it up to 365 times in the Bible, meaning that every day God is telling us, don't be afraid, because the natural inclination for us as human beings when we see a threat is to be afraid. But then when we become afraid, we become paralyzed. We are more likely to make mistakes when we are afraid. You see that when you are stressed, you're more likely to make mistakes. You are driving and you are absent-minded. Either someone hits you or you hit someone or you can get an accident. You are in the kitchen and before you know, you've cut yourself. You are doing something and all these things because you are heightened. But you need to calm down. You need to take stock of what is going on in your life. What are the stakes in your life? What are the things that make you stand? If all falls down, what can you count on? For a lot of us, it's our belief system, it's our faith, whether we are Christians or whether we are Muslims or whatever our belief. So these are the times to hold on to the tenets of your faith. It helps. If you have a community where you share, where you encourage each other, let each other know that we can beat this. People have done it, people are doing it, and we have the ability to do it. Yes, staying at home is not easy, and those of us in the front line, it's not easy either, but we cannot let fear paralyze us. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to eat well. We need to rest well. I know that it's not easy. I was telling someone that I don't remember the last time I had more than 5 hours. In fact, if I get 5 hours, it's like, thank God. Because there's so much, even when you are not physically at work, there's still a lot of work you need to do in regard to this. And it's the same for you in the media. But if we also break down, we'll be of no use to anybody. An empty cistern cannot hold water or give water. So it is imperative that those of us in the front line, whether we are in the military, whether we are in the police, whether we are in media, whether we are contact tracers, whether we are in the front line in hospitals, facilities, wherever we find ourselves, self-care matters. It is important. We need to sleep well, eat well, exercise, at least keep fit, walk around. Don't just be physically inactive. By virtue of what we do, most of us tend to work. So we need to do that. But we need to have a positive mindset that we can overcome it, that you don't expect to get it. But even if the worst happens and you get it, it's not the end of the world for you. It doesn't mean you're going to die. It doesn't mean you're going to get severe disease. And that is why we need the narratives of those who have overcome it to share their stories and to give us hope, to let us know that they have walked this path and they overcame. And if we also get it, we can overcome. But majority of us won't get it. So we need to have that positive attitude.
Amen to that, Doc. Thank you very much. Amen. I think I should be talking to you more often. And I want to take the opportunity to also celebrate you and your work as well. Thank you so much for talking to us.
You are most welcome. Have a good day.
You too, Mom. And that's Dr. Amma Edwin there. Let me just end by saying, if you don't already, you will soon know someone who has been ill with COVID-19 and survived. They will be our friends, our family, our neighbors, and our colleagues. History will judge us by the way we treat them. Don't let fear of COVID-19 turn into stigma. I hope we all got that message. We have an extension of our program this morning because of that press conference at the Ministry of Information. So what we want to spend the rest of the time doing now is ask the AM doctor. Our doctor is on call this morning, Dr. Joseph Akama. And the reason we're doing this, hello, Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Mama B. Morning,
You look really
all the
refreshed.
viewers.
You look really refreshed.
Well, I have to. Everybody has to look.
Okay, unfortunately.
You know, listening to Dr. Edwin, who is one of my pages. So she motivates everybody.
Okay, I'm not sure. It looks like we have to work on that sound there. But I just wanted to tell you all the reason we have Dr. Joseph Akama, who is our AM doctor. He's head of cardiology departments at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. This is why we're doing this. Most of the hospitals are not doing outpatients. They're actually given alternatives. So you have to be really ill before you can go to a hospital. There are also calls discouraging us from just walking into any facility with any kind of sickness. So we have him, so you can bounce things off him. If there's anything that's been bothering you whilst you've been home, or maybe you're an essential worker and you're out there and you want to bounce it off Dr. Akama, well, he's our AM doctor. He will take all your questions. So whatever you're feeling as you're home, and you haven't been able to go to the hospital. Yesterday we got a message. Somebody said she had a surgery at 37 and was wondering how she was going to make it to 37. Elective surgeries for some facilities has been cancelled unless it's an emergency. Otherwise you have to hold on until we're done with this whole pandemic. So how do you contain what you already have? That's the conversation that we're having. And you can give us a call on 0302-211-69102. Dr. Akama will take your questions and give you the answers. We also realize that there's still a lot more to do even on this COVID in terms of the education. People still keep asking a lot of questions, so we'll take the opportunity to also do some education on COVID-19. But if there's anything, if you have any chronic disease that you're dealing with, and in these times you haven't been able to do your regular checks, and you want to bounce something off Dr. Joseph Akama, you can feel free to do so. You can give us a call on 0302-211-69102. We also have a WhatsApp number that you can send your messages to. Dr. Joseph Akama, if he's set now, can I say hello to him again? So you can give us a call on 0302-211-69102. We've got our... All right, Dr. Akama, let's see if the sound is... Okay, this is excellent. So you were saying something a bit about Dr. Edwin.
Yes, I said she's my psychologist. And I'm happy she's really motivating it. I like the fact that she said we should self-care. And everybody must self-care. Sleep well, get to eat well, exercise daily, avoid rumors, avoid listening to bad news. If you can, I will advise everybody to switch off their WhatsApp maybe 24 hours every 3 days. Just keep quiet, listen to your family, talk to your family, relax. Because these are very unusual times, very stressful. So I'll be talking about sitting at home, staying at home, and stress, depression, weight gain, medication problems, diabetes problems, heart failure problems. So I'm happy to answer any questions that are pertaining to this our unusual state. And I really want to thank the government for making it possible for all the healthcare workers to do what they're doing. The people who are caring for the very sick patients, and then those who are also screening the patients at the front line in each hospital, screening patients and diagnosing COVID before sending them to the treatment centers. They are the real warriors. And everybody is at danger. I want to applaud everybody. The police, you should see them, the soldiers. I really applaud everybody for helping us. But I'm here to answer any health questions that anybody has pertaining to the current situation, Mama V.
Okay, great. So, for instance, the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, the Department of Medicine, outpatient service strategies. This has to do with COVID-19. There's a directive to patients which says only new cases will be seen at the OPD until further notice. And there are some numbers that's been given. Can you explain that? If you are my regular doctor that I see at Korle Bu, if I come around these times, would I still see you, Dr. Kama?
No, it has to be special, that you are very sick. Then we can arrange and see you. But we advise everybody to stay at home. Very key to preventing spread of this infection.
But how do I stay at home if I don't feel well?
Well, if you don't feel well, there are numbers for us to call. We have telemedicine. I have a free WhatsApp program that I'm running. So a lot of patients know my WhatsApp number. They send me questions. I take pictures. They send me videos. And then I request labs so they can do the labs and send them to me. And I've done that daily. I see not less than 10 people. And a lot of doctors are doing the same thing. These are unspoken. Nobody talks about these heroes who are seeing patients behind the scenes. We call patients, we assure them. The pharmacists are doing a tremendous job by filling the patient's medications. So these are all things that we're doing behind the scenes that people don't know.
Okay.
But we don't want people to hospital unless they are really sick. The reason is, one, those who have heart conditions or diabetes or multiple medical conditions at a higher risk of succumbing to this infection. So we don't want to get out if you can avoid it. And I've actually advised people not to do heart tests unless it's an emergency.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, so let's pick some phone calls. Owusu is in Sotum. Jennifer is in Bekwai. But let's speak to Owusu first. Good morning, Owusu.
Yes, good morning, Mama V. I have a little problem with my little boy who is 8 months. Virtually every morning you see some sort of boy-like swell on the either the hand, now it's in the hair. Okay, I took him to the hospital and I was asked to buy Augmentin. Indeed, because of the recent situation, the hospital is sort of closed, so they gave out numbers. And when I called, the doctor said we should buy Augmentin. He's done with it, but still we have that blister kind of form coming up. What do I do?
Okay.
Dr.
All right. Doc will take note of that. Let me speak to Jennifer. Jennifer is in Bekwai. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, Mama V. How are you?
Oh, very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm also good.
We thank God.
Actually, my problem has to do with my dad. He has cataract, and he's been on medication to gather it for some time now. And when we went to the hospital, the doctor said because of the COVID, he has to wait. Meanwhile, it seems it's deteriorating, and we don't know whether to wait till the COVID is over, and if we wait, will he have the chances of seeing again after the surgery?
Okay.
Or should we go still and have the surgery done for him?
Okay, but I see you're calling from Bekwai, so which facility do you usually go to?
Okay, he is in Obuasi, but he usually uses the Jachi Pamso facility.
All right.
Surgery.
All right.
That was where he was scheduled for the surgery.
Okay. Jennifer, thank you. So over to you, Doc.
Yes. So, Mr. Owusu, I'm sorry to hear about your son's condition, the 8 months with the boils. It's likely a number of things are going on. The heat, particularly heat in this environment, can cause a lot of problems for children. So what I will advise, and I'm going to seek the help of dermatologists, I'll give you my WhatsApp number, 026-739-5868, 026-739-5868. Send me pictures of these swellings. But I think use antibiotic soap, bath him regularly, make sure that he's dry, and then get antibiotic ointment, like triple antibiotic ointment, apply it. Also use antibiotic powders like Lesporin powder. See whether that will help. And then make sure his environment is not too hot. Sometimes the heat can cause problems.
Yeah.
about the lady calling from Bekwai.
Jennifer,
I'm
Jennifer's
sorry
dad.
about this situation. Yeah, Jennifer. You know, unfortunately, the directive that most people have given, especially the teaching hospitals, the theaters, is that elective surgery should be put on hold. So there are a lot of people who are disadvantaged with this. So there are going to be casualties. These are the things that we have to be talking about. So unfortunately, I don't think it is wise for him to be getting out there. But what we can do is continue the eye drops that the doctors gave him. And as soon as the government gives the go ahead, then the eye doctor can perform the surgery.
But Doc, how about the concern that it is deteriorating?
That is why, Mama V, I said, unfortunately, during this season, and I stress that we do not intend it, but there's going to be collateral damage. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage. A young lady called me the other day saying that she needed to do fibroid surgery because she has to get pregnant. Otherwise, the time is going, her time is going. And I advised her, look, this is not the time for these. It's an unusual situation. So it's collateral damage. But what we can do is continue the eye drops, have him exercise daily, take the vitamins if it's not taking any vitamins, and then follow the instructions by the eye doctor.
Okay.
Keep a line with the eye doctor and see what he advises.
Okay, let's go back to the phone line. Samuel and Tony. Samuel first from Koforidia.
Yeah,
good morning. Good morning, Samuel. Let's hear you.
Yes, thank you very much. And I would like to thank all our health workers for that marvelous job that they are doing. Then my issue has to do with this apparatus being used at the hospital to check our BP, which they normally tie on our hands. It seems like they use it on a lot of patients that come to the hospital. So if in case it happens that the patient comes to have this coronavirus and it's being used on that person, the same thing is being used on another person without any measure, like probably maybe disinfecting it before using on another person again. It's very, I don't know if there's something that they're going to do about that particular issue.
All right,
and the last one has to do with it's my personal problem. And I feel some pain just below my wrist. And it seemed, at first it happened and it seemed like I was told that it's ulcer. I went to the hospital, I was given medicine, it stopped, but it has started again. I've been feeling these things all the time.
Okay, all right.
Any advice?
Okay, sure, Samuel. Tony from Kumasi, good morning to you. Thank you for holding. Let's hear you.
Okay, good morning, Doc. Hello.
Morning. Morning, Tony.
I have a question about this bacteria, the COVID bacteria. Yes, I want to find out.
Hang on, COVID is a virus.
Hello.
Okay, you ask your question.
Yes.
Yes,
people are buying food from outside. So I want to find out if they happen to be contaminated with the food and you eat it, can you be infected?
Okay.
And then number two, I want to know if there are bacteria that can move. In case they are on your forehead, can they move towards your nostril or your mouth so that you can be infected? Because I can see we are only washing our hands. You only wash your hands. We don't wash our face. But for me, I wash my face frequently. I want to find out if they are movable, that they can find their way towards the nostril or your mouth where you can be infected.
All right, Tony. Thank you very much. Doc has taken notice. Let's speak to Alice, who's also joining us from Kumasi. Alice, good morning. You're on air.
TV. Please, I want to ask. I'm a pregnant woman, and I'll be going for my antenatal. So what should I do, and what should I not do?
Okay. Do you still go for your regular clinics even around this period?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Alice. Thank you very much. Doc?
Yes. Thank you very much. So I want to tackle Alice's condition before I go to the others because the other two are likely linked. Alice, currently pregnancy is one of the conditions where the government hasn't stopped people from going to see they are doctors, they are gynecologists and obstetricians. So each department has been designed in such a way that when you get there, they will take care of you. And most places are making sure they prevent you from getting the infection. You also have to make sure you prevent yourself from getting the infection. So before you leave home, make sure you cover your nose, and then when you get back home, clean your hands, wash your hands before you get into the house. So when you get to the hospital, stay at a distance away from a lot of people till they attend to you. And the obstetricians have a protocol they follow. So don't get discouraged, but before you leave home, make sure your nose is covered, your mouth is covered. Take the preventive measures. When you get to the hospital, make sure you're not too close to people. If you're traveling in a trotro, make sure you're not too congested. And then take these steps. These are the routine steps. There are no special steps for pregnant women. It's the same thing for everybody. But stay at home as much as possible.
Okay.
If possible, call your obstetrician way before, so you know that they are ready for you to come in. So regarding Tony from Kumasi, the bacteria, it is not a bacteria, Tony. COVID-19 is not a bacteria, it's a virus. It is smaller. Viruses are small. Some even claim they don't have legs, they don't walk. So it is the way I'm speaking. The other day, I gave an analogy. The way I'm speaking, I'm stressing, I'm spewing out saliva, tiny drops of saliva. And in those saliva comes the viruses. So assuming I had a virus in me, and I'm speaking, my computer right now, everything in front of me is taking these tiny, tiny aerosols. We call them aerosols. Inside the aerosols, the virus gets to travel. It hasn't got legs. It doesn't crawl. So when it lands on your forehead, that is where it will stay. Now, what will happen is when it lands on your forehead and it stays there, and you touch it with your hand and put it in your touch your lip or your tongue, that is when it gets into your stomach. If the food is contaminated with the virus, it stays in the food. Now, you can heat the food, and that might kill the virus. But assuming you just buy the food, and the food is contaminated, and the virus is in the food, and you eat it, it is going to get you. So be careful. Be careful how you buy food, where you buy food, how you treat it. Make sure you heat the food very well before you eat it. Most food vendors have been educated to take preventive measures. So IPC, make sure they are washing their hands regularly and then cooking the food to the temperature that we want them to cook it to.
Okay.
So it is not a bacteria, it is a virus. Viruses are smaller than bacteria, and viruses do not crawl. We transport them. They need a human to human. So if I have the infection, I'm sitting in my house throughout the day, I'm not going to give it to anybody until I walk out and contact somebody. And if that person loses his guard, does not prevent himself, that is when he will get infected. That is why the government said we should separate, we shouldn't get close to each other, we shouldn't gather for funerals, we shouldn't gather for parties. And then when you're traveling, make sure you are 2 meters away from each other. When you're talking to somebody, make sure you're covered. When you're leaving your home and then interacting with people, make sure your nose is covered, your mouth is covered. The reason is, if you have the infection, you don't give it to somebody.
Yeah.
If somebody has the infection, it's not likely they give it to you.
Okay.
So that is the reason for the protection.
Okay.
So, Tony, the food, if it's contaminated, can get you.
Okay.
Can give you infection. If somebody has the infection and talks to you, coughs in your face, sneezes in your face, can give you the infection. So make sure you clean the surfaces of your home very carefully.
Okay.
Do not allow strangers into your house. Even your friends and family, keep them in their homes. Call them by video, call them by telephone. Do not leave your homes. Very, very important.
Okay.
Even those areas that are not under lockdown, do not leave your home unnecessarily.
Okay. Doc, here's what we are going to do.
If you must. And when you leave home, keep the mask on. I have been advocating this since February, that everybody must be in a mask.
Okay, Doc, I will just ask you to hold it there. There are other legs of the earlier questions that we haven't tackled. I want us to listen to Emmanuel and Kwejo. We'll take a quick break afterwards and we'll come back and hear you. So, Emmanuel from Weija.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mama V.
Yes, Emmanuel, let's hear you. You're
okay.
on.
Okay, so just about 3 weeks ago, that is this Saturday evening would have been 3 weeks. I actually felt very uncomfortable, particularly when I was swallowing saliva on my throat. More or less like a feeling of sore throat. So I had to go to 37 Military Hospital all the way from Weija. I rode on a motorbike, that is myself, protected, and then with my helmet and everything. And then they did a test, and then some few questions, and there was a form that we were filling. So the doctor actually walked me through, asked few questions and so on. And then he came up that I'm having a suspected case, and then I should visit the next place for them to do a blood test. And then because the test that they had conducted, the blood test they had conducted, they realized that I was having more the number of antivirus, the number of antibodies that fight against viruses were more in the test they had conducted. So they had to refer me and then do the COVID-19 test. And then when I went, I was told they didn't have enough testing materials or whichever they needed to do the test. So I should go home and isolate. And then there were some few prescriptions they gave me. But even before then, I was taking QFX because I had heard a lot about it. QFX and then vitamin C was also what I was on because the patient who was diagnosed with COVID has spoken on joining me that when he was in there, it was vitamin C that he kept on taking and then it became better. So that was what I've been taking for the past 3 weeks.
Okay.
I've been indoor, I live alone, I don't go anywhere. Luckily, I was able to get some food stuff, so I prepared my own food and then I stayed here. I never went anywhere for the past 3 weeks. I feel if I had been tested for the past 3 weeks, I would have been diagnosed with COVID.
So did you ever take the test? Did you go back to 37 for the test?
I didn't go back to the 37. I didn't go back there again. Actually, they gave me a WhatsApp number that I was communicating with a particular doctor who later advised me to get a particular antibiotic, I think augmentin or so, which also helped me very well.
Okay, so you've been okay?
I'm very okay now. I don't have any problem. But I think the earlier the better we diagnose people and advise them and let them stay indoor.
All right.
Would be better as compared to those that go about their normal duties without even knowing that they would affect others.
All right. Emmanuel, thank you very much for opening up to us. Do we still have Kwejo from La Paz? Hello, Kwejo.
Hello.
Is this Kwejo?
Hello.
Hi, good morning. May I know your name?
Mama, good morning.
Good morning. Your name, please.
Good morning.
Okay, I see. You have to turn down the volume on your television. Okay, Kwejo, yes, you. Okay, we have to take a breather. I'll get my producer to tell you to put the, turn down the volume on that television. We'll come back and continue this conversation. Stay with us.